This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
All right, we are ready to go.
All right, it is 6:01. I will now call to order the July 25th meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission. This meeting is being recorded. This meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission will be conducted in person and simultaneously via remote participation online to the greatest extent possible. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so despite best efforts, we will post on the City of Easthampton website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Should an interruption occur in which the online meeting ends abruptly, both the in-person and online meetings will not be restarted, and all agenda items will be automatically continued to the next scheduled meeting. Are there any public concerns or non-agenda items?
I have not received any.
Right. Our first order of business, public hearings. Continue from 7:11. We have a notice of intent filed by BSC Group on behalf of NSTAR Electric Company doing business as Eversource Energy at 19B15 and 19B16 lines right of way off North Street, map 110, lot 19 for a distribution line upgrade project. DEP file number 1510320. We have a couple of people here for this item. Would you please introduce yourself for the record?
Yes, my name is Melissa Kaplan. I'm with the BSC Group. And then I have joining me is Simon Hilt from Eversource and Jonathan Roberge from Eversource, both environmental scientists. Simon and Jonathan will be speaking along with me, but to update the commission, we provided a proposed plan for invasive management at the location. And Cassie said you guys have a copy of that. And we went out as part of that and get a clear picture of the footers that are there. We measured them to get a better, a clear picture since that was an item raised at the last hearing. But I am going to let Simon discuss this invasive management, and I believe he sent over those photos that hopefully Cassie can show you guys. But I'll let you take over, Simon.
Yeah, good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, hold on. You're a little quiet, Simon. Let me turn it up real quick.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead and try now.
All right. Can you hear me better?
Try that.
I can try my the settings here. Let's see.
Oh,
Better. Better?
It was for a second.
All right. How about this one?
good.
Good. Okay, great.
I'm gonna go print.
Okay. So the photos that I sent over that Cassie's printing now are just some representative site photos of the location where the structure is located along the river there. Not being present at the last hearing, Melissa relayed the commission's concerns about managing invasive species at the site, and namely the commission's desire that Eversource does something proactive to try to manage or reduce the population of invasives there. So it sounds like it won't do any good for me to share my screen that has the photos on it. You won't be able to see it, or?
If you could share it for the benefit of the public, everyone
Sure.
else will be able to see it, but we will not.
Okay, that's unfortunate, but all right, I'll share those now. Believe I am sharing. It's starting to happen.
I see it. It looks good.
Okay, great. So the first shot that we're seeing here is just along the railroad tracks. It's roughly 60, 70 feet between the tracks and the structure that's to be replaced. So this photo here is just highlighting the presence of namely Asian bittersweet along the railroad tracks here. You can see it a bit growing up some of the trees to the north here. Also the species, I don't know if you can see my cursor here, if you guys can see anything here, but there appears to be a colony of tree of heaven, Lanthus altissima here as well. Just a couple more pictures to just kind of highlight the point that I'm making here. Next picture is along the tracks viewing a little bit to the southeast. Next shot here is just to the south of the structure. I think some of the trees shown here are some of those to be removed as part of the project, but If you can see the photo, you'd see that the trees are just completely, it's a curtain of bittersweet along the trees there. Next shot I'm sharing here shows areas outside of the right-of-way just to the north of the structure. So again, just a complete curtain of bittersweet along this area. And then lastly, looking directly at the structure where I think you can see some of those tree of heaven and some of the bittersweet in the background along the tree canopy there. So again, we completely recognize and understand the commission's concern about the spread of invasives and wanting to manage them. The issue that we have here is just that from my experience in right-of-way management, and also particularly years ago, I was involved in a invasive species surveys for Holyoke Gas and Electric, where we were actually in a boat touring the Connecticut River and documenting colonies of invasives along the river. And what that showed to me back then was that unfortunately, the Connecticut River corridor, as well as the I-91 corridor, most highways probably, and this rail corridor is just completely inundated with rare species. So we recognize, again, the concern, but the unfortunate thing is that in our opinion, I think that these areas are essentially beyond saving as far as invasives go. And even if we were to propose herbicide treatments to try to control the species that we have the ability to attempt to control within our right-of-way, that's where our abilities do end, is at the limits of our legal easement. So even if we were to try to control invasives within the easement, just outside of them, there's essentially a never-ending supply of seed stock that's going to be brought right back into the corridor here. So again, we hate to throw up our hands and say we can't do anything to fight it, but that's just what we believe the case is, that really reducing the population is just not feasible. So that's why in the document that we provided, what we're proposing is really to try to do all that we can to avoid introducing additional species into the work areas, and also do a really thorough job of inspection and cleaning of our construction mats and equipment, so that we're doing all that we can to not remove any of the seed stock or plant material from the site as well. So I don't know if you've all had a chance to review that, but it's essentially the bulleted list contained on page 3 there. Just basically states that all of the construction mats being brought onto the site, as well as all the equipment brought onto the site, would be inspected and cleaned. And that's we do this on a right-of-way in all cases, because we don't want to deal with invasives anywhere. I mean, we don't want to spread them anywhere. So we follow the best management practices of cleaning our mats and equipment using either compressed air or mechanical means, i.e. brushing or something like that. Work will be conducted from the mats, so that'll limit the amount of soil disturbance, which would limit the potential for new invasives to be introduced to the site, as well as potentially picking up plant material onto equipment. The third bullet down states that the trees that we are proposing to cut down, and Melissa, you can correct me, I think there are between 6 or 8 trees, something around there, that need to be cut as part of the project. So back to the shots around the structure here, if you can still see my screen. Kind of the thought there is that rather than trying to remove these trees, which are just completely laden with bittersweet, at least try to remove those from the site and potentially be depositing seeds along the way, and then try to come up with a way that's appropriate to dispose of them, which realistically would be landfilling them. To simply cut them, buck them up into manageable pieces and just leave them essentially as structural habitat here, that a wood pile that could provide some habitat, but also would again just limit the potential for removing invasives and spreading them elsewhere into the site or to other locations. Beyond that, we propose, just as we'd clean things coming into the site before we move into the site, cleaning all our equipment and mats as we're coming out of the site. And then, if there are areas of disturbed ground, which we really don't expect there to be a whole lot, because the trees would just be flush cut, they wouldn't be grubbed, so no removal of root masses. The soil disturbance that we'd really expect to see out there would essentially be associated with installation of the new structure and potentially removal of the old footings there. So in those areas, we would apply a native seed mix, something probably herbaceous in nature, and mulching that area with straw, which is essentially weed free. So that's really what our thought is. Again, we wish that we could offer control of the invasives here, but even if we did our absolute best here and promised years and years worth of treatment within the site, there would just be a continuous input of seed and plant material from outside of the corridor that's beyond our control here. So that's the message that we're trying to convey.
There's also information on the Eversource's yearly and 5-year vegetation management plan, which also targets invasive species, which we've outlined in the plan as well.
Yeah, it does, to the extent that they are, obviously present, and if to the extent that they might be actually climbing a structure, something like that, they'll be treated. It's generally not in an area like this that is so densely populated with invasives. It's not like we would be doing a broad scale foliar application or something like that. But when it meshes with our vegetation management plan, we do target invasives.
Are there questions or comments from the commission?
Because normally if it was a big project, we would ask them to, make adjustments for those things, but I don't know what to do in the situation.
So I mean, we feel that there will be an improvement to the resource area, as Melissa had stated in the last meeting, by moving the structure back from the river, by removing the concrete footings, and that, the footprint of this lattice tower is larger. The aerial coverage of it is larger than the individual pole will be. So we feel like that is an improvement to the resource. But really, it's sad to say that the invasives case is just sort of a lost cause along the entire Connecticut River, as far as I have seen.
So there's nothing we can do as far as the invasives?
I'm not sure it would make any difference because it is surrounded on all sides. So if it was a housing development, then it would make sense. But for just a small parcel, I'm not sure it makes sense to try to do anything. It's got to be on here. Unless we do something that say they have to do it for many years, but I'm not sure they'll ever get in front of it. But tell me what you think.
The relative areas involved, I think.
It's pretty small.
His point.
Yeah.
Was it in the report of the rare species? I thought you mentioned.
I think, Simon, that you misspoke. You said that the corridor was inundated with rare species. I think you meant invasives.
Invasive
Yeah,
species.
I wish it was the other one, but
Okay.
my apologies for that.
So where they're cutting the trees and then putting a wood pile,
Well, tree having some invasive tree, right?
I believe
I believe it is.
it's.
they still do the native seed mix. That help? That would
Not for-
invasive.
Right, but not for very long, but certainly they should do a native seed mix wherever they're disturbing grounds. I would think, but it's not
Those
gonna,
areas are going to be very minimal.
it's very small footprint.
What is the timing of this project?
I believe, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to see if Jonathan could speak to that, but if either of you know.
Yep. Yeah, it's this fall. So probably September.
So at that point, the solar will have already replaced its seeds, so there's not really any hope there either.
Not sure there's much we can do. It's going to change too much.
Okay. All right, thank you for that additional information. We also saw, I don't know if everyone got a chance to read the additional report that was sent over, but there is clarification about the volume of fill for what's going to be removed versus what will go in with the new foundation for the monofold. And so we did have a confirmation that that is a reduction. I'm not seeing the number right now.
75
Yeah.
square feet. Reduction of 75 square feet.
That's the
Or is that something different?
surface area. I think the fill reduction is
364 cubic feet.
Yeah.
A reduction of 364 cubic feet.
so that was our other open question, I believe. And the other thing we had asked was the total project area, including the indirect impacts from the mats. Did you calculate that? I didn't see that in the additional information.
I missed that, but I could probably get you about that. Give me 1 second. I believe that it's about, what was it?
The mats
100.
measure 16 feet wide, so we just need to basically measure the length of the access road, and Melissa should have the area of the work pad. So that shouldn't
Yeah,
be
it's about 100 by 100 for that work pad area. It doesn't include the matting that's coming into the area, but the work pad is about 100 by 100. I'm just measuring it on my. And that is a conservative estimate. Sometimes they go smaller, but that is as large as they will be allowed to go.
So for a notice of intent, we'd have to have conditions, perhaps. Are there any special conditions that we want to have other than our standard conditions?
Standard would be 48-hour construction notice. What else?
There's a couple other things that I was curious to see your opinions on. One would be the construction monitoring requirements. Right now, most projects, especially if they have a SWIP, which I don't anticipate this one would have a SWIP,
Small, right?
too small, if my understanding is correct, that they would do weekly reporting and then after every 0.25 inch rain event. We've done it with other projects, less frequent reporting required, or just after rain events is another one that we've done before. What else? And the reporting, would just be confirming the condition, the security of the erosion controls, and that no breaches occurred or sedimentation occurred. Pre-construction meeting usually requires the posting of the DEP file number. What else? That's like a given. Let me pull it up real quick. Let me just get one real quick. But
I'm not sure they need to do weekly reports because the footprint's so small, but maybe after a rain event, that might be important to get a report after that.
What is the expected duration of the project?
I would expect that the matting would probably take less than a week to install, and then the structure replacement itself is probably around a week. So under 3 weeks, Jonathan, or would you want to say a month?
Yeah, well, we're replacing structures on the Hadley side of the river as well and reconductoring. So to run the wire and all that, I think September to December is probably a safe estimate.
Yeah. So we do, as I mentioned, the at least the wetlands part of it is has to be reported to Mass DEP as part of our Eversource's administrative consent order. So we do have a requirement and reporting requirement with them. We'd be happy to provide that report to you. We also, you know, as part of Eversource's BMP manual, we do weekly monitoring out there as well. It is not required under any regulation to do any sort of after a rain event, because as Cassie mentioned, we don't have a SWIP requirement for this one. But, you know, we do have our own internal monitoring. So it is going to be covered in terms of that. So, you know, we have that protection. Be happy to, you know, provide any information on that as well.
Just so you know, also what the DEP reporting that Melissa mentioned entails. Whenever we're using construction mats, placing them within bordering vegetated wetlands, we're required to take some beforehand photos of the area. And then after mats are removed, we're required to go back during the growing season to take additional follow-up photos from that same photo point so that we can compare. And we basically have to report to DEP if any corrective actions were needed and how they were taken, essentially, if there is restoration required. But as far as the ground disturbance, again, we won't be having a stormwater protection plan because we're well under an acre of disturbance here. But really, it's the mats are placed on the ground to protect the ground surface. For the most part, vegetation remains intact under the mats, and then so it should really just be the excavation for the new structure and removal of the footers, which would be ground disturbance. So we'll certainly install erosion controls appropriately, and if you would like some reporting based on that to see that they're installed, I can certainly provide that to you.
Yeah, so we typically would require that. We'll require that here as well. Do we want to see copies of the reporting that's going to go to DEP?
We might as well, if it's, you know, it's no extra work for them, so we might as well see the reports.
Sure, so we could add that as a condition.
Okay, and the next thing that I was going to note is the invasive management plan. Typically, that's a pre-construction requirement that be submitted. But if the commission's happy with what they're seeing today, then I can not have that be required and just get confirmation that it hasn't changed. If that works for everybody.
That sounds fine.
Okay, and let's see, just going through. Just typical things like flagging the limit of work. And flagging the wetlands wherever it's within 50 feet of the limit of work. Let's see. Erosion control installation, monitoring we already discussed. There's no stormwater elements, we didn't include that. I guess post-construction, questions for post-construction requirements for certificate of compliance. Our boilerplate is to include a request for as-built plans to make sure that still makes sense in this instance or something, just, yeah.
Their plans are going to be their as-built plans, right? So.
Is that something on, what's that, sorry?
Go ahead.
I was just wondering if that was something that you guys are going to be generating anyways for your own purposes.
Not typically, no. But we have had, you know, similar conditions in order of conditions, but I'm sorry, my son is telling me dinner is ready. You know, usually we submit the plan, or we can have an engineer write a letter saying the project has been built in accordance with the the plans that we've provided, if that would, that's something that we've done before, just a letter.
I think an as-built plan would essentially be the same map that you have with the existing structure removed and the matting removed. So if you'd like that, we can certainly provide it, or happy to have another follow-up site visit after the work is done.
Yeah, that's another option.
Sure.
Great.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Site visit sort
Yeah,
of thing?
that sounds
Okay.
great.
I'm looking at the plan again. Can you remind us, the plan shows temporary matting that extends quite a ways to the sort of southeast. And I'm not recalling from our previous conversation what that matting is for, because I believe the access was
Yes.
more in the immediate vicinity of the pole, correct?
Well, as you know, there's the railroad crossing there, and it was determined that that railroad crossing was going to be too difficult and probably would require some sort of grading or something to get down. So instead, they're going to come from Holyoke, from the generating plant down there, and come up through the right of way. Just come up through the right of way to avoid. It's a minimization of impacts. So
Okay, I'm
through the
seeing
right.
now the existing access line. So you'll come along the existing road and then place the mats.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the commission? Any other conditions? I think we've covered all the standards.
Yeah, yep, that answers my questions.
I'll make a motion that we approve the notice of intent with the conditions discussed.
Do we have a second? Roll call vote. Sarah? Al?
Aye.
Deb? Michael?
Aye.
Jay?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time.
Cassie, can I ask that you?
You want that to be issued by mail or to be picked up?
My
Or
mail
if
would be
you'd like-
great if you could send that to me, if that's possible.
Right.
The address is on the form.
Okay, great. And I just have to finish typing up the final version and getting it sent off, getting it completed on EDEP. But I will get that to you as soon as I can, and
Perfect.
then I will mail to you.
Yeah, even a digital copy is still acceptable
Cool.
under the new, the reinstated governor policy. So
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yep. Okay, cool.
Do you have paperwork here for us to sign, Captain?
No, I don't. We still are using we have the authorization for the electronic signatures.
Okay.
So for orders of conditions, I've been using that in that you do it through EDEP and it's electronic there anyways.
Okay.
And that's been acceptable for the registry of deeds. But if I do have a physical one, it's nice to get the real signatures on.
Thank you.
all right.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Yeah, have a nice
Bye-bye.
night.
Thank you.
All right, our next item, a request for certificate of compliance, S. Judd, Mass DEP file number 1510229 for the Treehouse Housing Development, seeking a partial certificate for 11 Button Road, which was lot 7. This is map 162, lot 10.7.
Hi, we've got Stephen Judd here. If you just want to state your name for the record, Stephen.
Sure, Stephen.
It cut you out, but it's Stephen Judd. He's the property owner. Sorry.
Apologies.
Do you mind, Steve, if I give him a quick explanation of the history with doing partial certificates of compliance for this subdivision?
Sure. So I was applying for a home equity line, and during the title search, this came up. When I bought the house in 2012 and several refinances before that, this has never come up in the title search, but for this current bank, it has. So they said it had to come from when the plot was originally built back in 2006, I believe. We're the second owners of the property since 2012. So this is getting that partial certificate to clear it off of the title search so we can close on our home equity line of credit.
And I'll just add that the commission has issued partial certificate of compliances for this neighborhood before, in that it's for each home lot. We haven't issued a certificate of compliance for the whole subdivision, because that includes things like the construction of the road and the infrastructure. Each of the individual housing lots, the real thing to consider would be the limits of the lawn, because the house itself was not part of the original order. So in order to do the partial under this, it's kind of considering are the limits of lawn right. I did a site visit with Mr. Judd on the 19th and confirmed that the limits of lawn are where they were supposed to be. And everything looked good. I didn't notice any encroachment or anything like that.
Cassie, can you, I know that not everyone can see these pictures, I'll pass them around in a moment. There appear to be what I would have assumed were monuments in the middle of the grass. What are these that we're seeing?
So one of these pictures, this is by the shed, Stephen, was they're showing me right now. And I'm not sure if that's like where the 100-foot buffer zone extends to, or I'm not exactly. That one is kind of is looking into the other neighbor's property. So it's hard for me to say if all those markers are for where the lawn was supposed to be or not. But I'm not sure, frankly.
Are there additional markers at the tree line?
That
No,
yeah.
13 button, that back one, I believe you're about.
Yep. So do you know if you've ever seen any markers at the tree line?
No, not that I know of. But it's been pretty overgrown back there with all the invasives and stuff that have been back there too.
Do we have the original plan that would show us where the line is supposed to be with the property?
Yeah.
Because
And
that is, I'm not sure if you're aware, Mr. Judd, but the primary concern with this neighborhood and what we typically look for in the certificate of completion is the confirming that the limit of lawn is where it's supposed to be and there has not been any encroachment, because that was one of the primary considerations when this development was permitted.
okay, hold on just a second. I'm going to pull it up here, and then I may need to go print it actually. Just make sure I have it before I run off.
Looks like
Right, and what we seem to be seeing in the pictures is that the lawn extends considerably beyond the monuments.
Let's see.
treehouse use the concrete monuments to identify their.
I've always
I'm
had the
sorry.
line close to my house on the west side of the property and in the back, and there's always been grass behind there, so because I'm the second owner of the property too. I've owned it for,
I'm sorry, Stephen, can you say that one more time?
I've owned the property since 2012. So that's where the lawn had been when I bought the property.
Okay. All the plans that I'm seeing don't seem to show where the lawn was. I have like the notice saying, like telling people whenever they get the property that they can't expand the lawn. Let's see. House extension.
We able to pull up an area.
True, we could check the historic aerials.
Doesn't look like lawn.
Are the, I'm assuming that this apparent monument that we're seeing close to the shed is a concrete
Yes.
post, yeah. That is typically the monuments that are meant to demarcate the edge of lawn in this neighborhood.
So, I mean, I have some concrete monuments that are within 5 feet of my house on the west side of the property that the lawn's always been passed.
Right, so that's why we're looking for the original plan to understand where the house was in proximity to the permitted lawn line.
Okay, understood.
Still, we got,
I think, I mean, we would have to discuss that, but I think we would probably want to see a plan for allowing that to renaturalize to where the lawn limit is supposed to be before we would issue a certificate plan.
Yeah, I apologize. I don't have it. And I think I was just thinking of new disturbance or that it would be more obvious, but I totally understand what you're asking for. And all the plans that I have in my files here don't have that. They have like the area and it just kind of shows all the lots, but it doesn't show like existing vegetation compared to, you know, where the tree lines are or
Do you
where.
have the file cabinet?
Yeah, I have the
See
keys.
if it's in there.
I have the keys. Sorry, folks, I'm actually going to get into these cabinets behind you. I apologize.
Check thoughts on whether this would be under button or greenhouse. In the granny filing system, it could go either way. It'd be a couple of places. Yeah, that's okay.
2 places. But that shed is built really far back. It's probably, the shed looks like it's built, you know, way back.
Mhm.
So, mine is out. So I'm not sure if that's the monument. That white dot there could be the monument, so.
So when we put, just to get Mara on the shed, we put the shed in front of the concrete marker when it was put in the creek line.
All right, and we could only partially hear that. Can you repeat?
Yeah, the shed, what we put purposely in front of the concrete marker from where it is, off the creek line around. So it bends around the shed. So it should be fully in front of the, what would be the buffer to the creek.
I really don't see a lot of lawn behind the shed like the photo kind of shows.
In the area that you're seeing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shed looks like it's at the tree line.
One more thing. Oh, this is like a tree house right here. It's big giant. Exactly.
It's at the shed. So I'm not even that. It's hard to tell.
It's all cool. Oh boy, this whole thing.
Yes. It's-
I'm gonna move this up. Oh.
Won't have to call the ambulance.
Okay. Thank you. Residential first one.
Next.
Hopefully it'll be the first one, 7. Not 7. Sorry.
Because there is like a treehouse building. It's not relevant to this situation.
Plan.
This is only a portion of the treehouse. His neighborhood is like up here. He's in the upper street of it. So this is the treehouse, like, LLC area. And these are all buildings that are associated with this company. Let me just make sure there's not anything else just in the beginning of the button. I think. Yeah, it's just in these buildings. Okay, hold on. One more place left.
Yeah, those drawings are too old up there.
Just beat the circle, yeah, no pressure.
They're usually behind the houses.
Those are too high, yeah, he'll be up, his house will be up there.
The whole goal is to have people like, well, past a certain boundary. They're That's one there.
Yeah.
That's the shed, yes, yeah.
This is from the medical land on.
Right.
Over there, actually, in order. Yeah.
The shed is really,
I have
he
to
says
find
it's not.
the one yesterday.
We're not posting
No, but we're trying
the
to,
mark.
it's the mowing past the marker if that's an issue.
What year is that?
It's Google Earth, so it's not too teens. So,
Okay.
right.
Yeah. Looks like you're checking farther than the marker.
Okay.
But the photo looks like the lawn past the marker.
Runway, but railroad top. Lot 7, I can't even believe it, it's on there. Just this one part. It doesn't show where the trees are, though, in this image.
You know, where this was coupled.
Can you tell me?
This is 2006, we got the as-built for the whole thing. The plan right now, these are the as-built. Yeah, from 2006, so this was completed. Did you have a paper button yet? Yes, I did. Nothing? Yeah. We have the, I'll file for the violation that was, has since been cleaned out, violation. Right at 1:08. This is a graphical one.
What's behind the tree? They're what?
The white brook.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Proposed, this was topographical subdivision plan. In 2004. So I come down at the right angle, is it? If that's. Here's the house. This is, either here, maybe? No, never mind. One of these ones we're gonna have. Here, take. Okay. So. Here's lot 7. Here's lot 7. Here's this crux right there. Yeah. It's close.
Where's the line that?
So what we're trying to see is, just have the line shown, though. It should be shown on a set of plans.
Yes,
If this is somewhere,
Yeah.
that's really.
It's probably in the stack somewhere, yes.
Because I mean, it looks here like the tree line. Would on top of where the house is now. Construction for the like help us, but. Infrastructure. Do you remember, have we? Is that showing?
Just, yeah, I just think it should be.
So it does show 50-foot buffer. Is that the basis of the monuments?
This is like a couple years before me.
Yeah. Do you recall, Jay, have we asked the owners to track down the plans when we have closed out lots in before?
No, because I've done site visits and the monuments were there and there was
Right.
no mowing behind the monuments, so.
So it was easy,
We knew it was easy
Yeah.
and straightforward. We knew that the monuments were the stopping point.
right? Stephen, is there any writing or any kind of markings on those concrete markers?
No, they're just pure concrete monuments. Nothing on top of them or around.
I mean, I can't imagine what they would be besides the limited lawn markers.
Right, that's what they were.
And just, I mean, when I bought the house, the lawn was beyond that, and I assumed that was with the limited lawn from everything that came through the title search of when we purchased it. So I wasn't aware that there was any other different limits. I thought those concrete markers listed the buffer zone of where you had to ask for permission for, like, if a tree had to be cut down because it was dead or other things when it came to the 50-foot buffer. But then I know the ones at the front of the yard are pretty far away from the creek. I don't know if that was just because that's where my property line was.
Yeah, the ones in the front, that does make sense that the ones in the front of the yard, because there's one like over here that would be marking the 50-foot buffer. And if this plan is sweet, there wasn't trees there originally, or it wasn't part of the original.
So you think they like these side markers and not back markers?
Well, I mean, that they're marking where the buffer zone is kind of along.
Where the brick is really to the side of it.
So that the markers aren't necessarily marking where the trees used to be, but rather where, because that would kind of explain the one that's way out here and getting closer to,
It's a side marker, not a back marker,
yeah,
something like that.
100 foot, something 50.
Side marker with green side. And I had figured that were the buffer zone markers for getting permission to do any type of change to the property.
The river on the iPad doesn't allow you to go back in time and do dates, so the computer does. The property.
Right.
That's a better picture than this.
2021. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more important to see it. Not really, no, you guys have been students. So, yeah, there's that banana island out here. And that would potentially be. If I could put it in. Yep.
So it should be along this boundary.
There's definitely one like here, where the corner of the house, like very close to the house.
So I think rather than try to guess from the limited information we have, I think we should probably continue this and try to actually find the plan, because there should be a plan that shows clearly
The monuments
and
and what their
marks
purpose was.
the limit of the line and where the line would be. If we can't find it in our file, we may need to reach out to Heritage Survey and see if Marguerite has them and see if there's been involved in this.
I mean,
Roll this up.
I just asked a question. I mean, this is something that it's the only thing that's really holding up a home equity line for me. And it's I'm hoping to get the funding and it's hold up for a couple of weeks. Is there anything we can do, since this is something that should have been done before we even bought the property, like 6 years prior to us when it was built, to like get the partial certificate and then work on a immediate plan after that?
Unfortunately, we can't issue the certificate until we've confirmed that the requirements of the project were met. And it should have been something that your title agent should have caught. So you could take it up with them if you'd like, but there's really nothing that we can do about that at this point. And we need to do our due diligence. So unless you want to assume that the markers are the limit of lawn and preemptively propose a plan to allow that lawn beyond the markers to renaturalize and present that to us, then we're going to need to track down the plans.
And that still wouldn't be done tonight, even if I propose that tonight?
Right, we would need to actually see that.
Okay. I mean, it is what it is. I'm not sure. I just sounded like everything was good from the site visit and stuff, so.
Yeah, I know, Stephen, that's on me because I misunderstood what was needed. So I apologize for that part, for not giving you the appropriate expectation.
Because I mean, I guess if I bought the house and the limit of lawn was past the concrete markers, I mean, so there's nothing we can do tonight? In either way.
No, I'm sorry.
If Cassie gets the information before the next meeting.
No, we would still need to deal with it in a public meeting.
Yeah, it's the commission that issues the certificate, not me.
And so what's at issue is the lawn behind the concrete markers, or that it's not a buffer zone versus a limit of lawn?
Correct. We need to confirm whether those markers are supposed to be the limit of lawn, which typically that's what they indicate in your neighborhood. And if they are, in fact, the limit of lawn, your lawn extends a good bit beyond those. And so we would need to have a plan to restore it to the way that it's meant to be before we can issue the certificate of compliance, because you're not in compliance currently, regardless of the fact that you're not responsible for that in compliance, because it's your property. It falls on you.
Okay.
But there's a potential that the markers are marking the buffer zone, correct? So if they're marking the buffer zone,
It's easy.
then in theory, potentially no changes need to be made.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so if that marks the buffer zone, then I'm in compliance, and that would be this.
As long as the mowing isn't past the marker and buffer zone sign. Which I have to look at the pictures again to
Right.
understand why.
Right.
Or go out there.
As long as the mowing isn't past the buffer zone?
Right, well, past the marker towards the buffer zone. We're thinking it's a back marker, but if it's a side marker, you shouldn't be mowing to the side. That's all towards the,
But it is for the side.
it is.
But somebody's wrong.
Somebody, yes, so
So maybe not.
Even to the, I mean, if that was there. Apologies if I was. I didn't realize that. If that was the buffer zone. So does that mean past the markers, no matter what, it doesn't have to be mowed? I guess I'm confused with the difference between the two.
I think we need to see the plan to know exactly what was permitted, because at this point, we're all speculating.
that's correct.
Yeah, was that not what you guys were just looking at on the table?
We didn't, but we had part of the plans for the neighborhood, but we weren't finding the set that actually shows the markers that were permitted and the limit of lawn. So we need to actually find that piece of the puzzle.
My plan, Stephen, is to reach out to the person who generated those plans we were just looking at. It's a company called Heritage Survey. They may have archival records and be able to give us that information. That's my first plan, to try to get this information.
And you are more than welcome to reach out to them as well. I mean,
Okay, I guess, I mean, but if Cassie can't get a hold of them, I'll start hounding them, but I don't have any information or contact or anything for that, so.
okay.
Okay. Guess there's nothing else I can comment on. I really wish we could, it's unfortunate this wasn't done 15 years ago, but it is what it is.
It is. So do we have a motion to continue?
A motion to continue to August 8th at 6 p.m.
Do we have a second? Roll call vote. Sarah? Aye. Hal?
Aye.
Deb? Aye. Michael?
Aye.
Jay?
Aye.
Motion carries. So we'll continue this to the August 8th meeting at 6 p.m.
Yeah, I'll be in touch, Stephen.
Okay, thanks, Cassie.
All right, good night.
Who seconded that motion?
Michael.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay.
All right, moving on to enforcement actions. Cassie, do we have, I know we have someone here for 93 Northampton Street. Do we have anything else to discuss?
No, I'm sorry. I haven't gotten the information for the East Street property yet. Okay, it's bad.
So 93 Northampton Street, rear map 128, lot 113, enforcement order 2022-003.
Yes. Good evening, Commission. I'm on another meeting in 2 minutes.
Jeez.
Okay.
Do you want to just punt me for a little bit? I
Sure.
Back in. I'm just going to go right outside.
All
Just do this real quick. It should be a 5-minute meeting.
Great, we'll come back to you. All right, moving on, open space updates. Cassie.
Yeah, no updates for Echodale. That one, we're just waiting to do the mow, and I sent them the signed document, so it's good to go. And Lathrop, I have no updates. I would like to request, unless anybody has any questions about open space, I'd like to request to take an item out of order for these folks here. Item 9B.
Motion to take 9B out of order.
Do we have a second? Roll call vote. Sarah?
Aye.
Hal?
Aye.
Deb?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Jay?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 9B under general business, 5 Mineral Street preliminary review. Do you want to come up and join us and introduce yourselves for the record?
I am Brenda. We've never done this before, so.
And I presume you're the owners of 5 Mineral Street?
Yes.
So if it's all right, I'll give them a quick explanation, if that's okay with you guys. Okay. So this is a property that has, there's the river, there's the road, and there's the river across the street from it, that has a 200-foot riverfront area associated with it that extends almost to the entire property.
Where, backing up for a second,
yes.
Mineral Street is not ringing a bell. Where are we?
It's up in the top corner, very close to Westhampton. In fact, their property is partially in Westhampton, right in the top corner there. And I believe that river, I should say there.
Is that the Manhan?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
One of the branches.
And,
It's, where Clear Falls is. It's like below Clear Falls.
Okay.
I think their property is right up here, this real skinny one.
Okay.
So, so there's two things going on in the property. One, there's the riverfront area. And then the other one is that there is a unmapped, doesn't show up on stream stats, intermittent stream channel that was running dry when I was there. That goes along the rear of the property. So you've got the 200-foot riverfront coming in from one side and then the 100-foot coming from the other. I don't know if there's wetlands at the headwaters of that little stream. And your guys' experience, you haven't hardly seen it running very frequently. It goes up into Westhampton. You guys would like to install a garage within the limits of existing lawn. And I just wasn't sure. What was the main thing I wanted to ask about this? I think I wrote it down in these notes here.
Make sure you're doing everything right.
Yeah, they want to know what kind of permit. I guess my question was, here's what my question was for, there's an exemption in the act as a minor activity. What is the size limit for accessory structures? Does it have to be one of the accessory structures that's listed there? Is that you can do sheds and decks and pools? Doesn't say like the size requirement for the shed though. I don't know when a shed becomes a garage or because there's going to be, it's more substantial. You guys were hoping ideally for a 2-car garage, correct? But then you were willing to change potentially.
And will you also be installing a driveway?
Yeah, there's kind of just like I don't know if we'd put a paved driveway, but it would just be no, it wouldn't be a paved driveway. it's super gravelly there. So it'd be just on the gravel, really. It's like real gravel, real rocky stuff.
I guess the other question is like, could it potentially be done as an RDA? Because there's also another existing shed that's quite dilapidated that is really close to that intermittent stream. It's almost, yeah, it's probably a couple feet away from the bank of that, that you might need to get an RDA to make that change anyways. And then you can wrap it all into one proposal to do the shed and then do the garage.
That shed was rehab it, but there was a bunch of sheds there actually, and we're down to just 2 sheds now, and one of them we want to rehab, and the other one is in the area of where we'd like to put the garage, where the existing shed is.
So I think my sense, there's not a clear definition for accessory structures to speak to this exception, but my sense, if you're doing a 2-car garage, which is a relatively large structure, actually there may be a definition for accessory structures under zoning. There probably is.
I just don't remember what it is.
Right, I don't either.
But I don't think a 2-car garage falls into that category, but I don't say that.
I think typically a garage is not considered accessory structure. It's considered a garage, which is a little bit different as far as zoning goes. And I think to make sure that you're fully covered and don't run into any issues later, I think it would be in your best interest, even if it maybe could fall under the exemption, I think it would be in your best interest to at least do an RDA.
Which is?
The RDA stands for a request for determination of applicability. It is it's a formal filing, but it's less formal and far less detailed than a notice of intent, which is the highest level of filing under the Wetlands Protection Act. So you would submit some sort of drawing to scale, although, I don't know if you're planning to have somebody build this with plans or if you can build it yourself. But you could create the drawing yourself using like the assessor's map from the city website as a base and draw to scale what you're planning and where on the property. We could take a closer look depending on, so you've already done a site visit.
Yep.
It sounds like there's some question about the jurisdiction of the intermittent stream. So we need to get some clarity on that so we understand where the resource areas are on the property relative to where you want to build. And then based on that, we could determine with a request for determination of applicability basically says, do you need to go to that next level, or are we able to give you permission to do what you're asking to do with just that more simple form? So we could formally make that decision, and then that would tell you if you need to get additional permission to go forward. But having the RTA would cover you so that there wouldn't be any question down the road of whether you were actually exempt or not. So I think it would be a wise choice. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I guess the other, like the stream is actually in Westhampton, but where we're trying to build base. Maybe it doesn't count.
Yeah, so.
It doesn't count.
So you may actually also, what did we decide? We just had one of these with Southampton.
So technically, if what you're trying to build does encroach into Westhampton and is also within that 100-foot buffer associated with the stream, like extending 100 feet out is all jurisdiction under the Wetlands Protection Act. The part that it's in Easthampton, this commission has to review. If part of it is in Westhampton, then the Westhampton Conservation Commission. Yeah, that would probably be the recommendation. Yeah, it'll make it a lot easier.
We got a project that goes on the border, so half was in Westhampton, half was in Easthampton, so that's why that was. Yeah, we can put it where.
Where you guys know.
Yeah.
If the resource area is in Westhampton though, it might be wise to file with both commissions to make sure that they don't have any additional concerns or requirements.
The resource being like
the stream
row wetland, yeah.
Or the not, it's just actually, well, it's a runoff ditch, but it's basically in the spring it runs.
Right.
But it's, comes from upstate. They may just say, forget about it because your property's in Easthampton, so
Yeah.
they may not care, but
Right, but it may
it
be
might be a good call.
to them as well.
Yeah, to call
Might be a
them.
good call
Okay.
to do it.
That's probably a good idea. Yeah.
Those problems are good.
So how do we start that process?
So Cassie, where is the best place to get the forms?
Best thing, honestly, the easiest thing is for me to email them to you. Because they're all on the website for the Conservation Commission, but I don't mind to just email them to you. And then we can go over all that's needed and, I can even work with you a little on the plan and make sure that it has all the things that it needs to have on it. But, yeah, probably if you guys are gonna work with someone to get it built anyways, they might generate a plan for you. I don't know how you're gonna do it. Oh, you guys are gonna build it?
We'll probably build it.
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, but yeah, I'll just be in touch and, I can talk to you about talking to Westhampton and getting that sorted out too.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah.
Thanks for coming in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for waiting. Yeah, have a nice day, guys.
Thank you.
Okay,
All right, back to compliance update.
yeah,
Any that you want to give us a report on, Cassie?
yes, we have another, item L,
Which
Oh, no.
one was that?
item I for the school, 200 Park Street.
Okay.
There's a request for a permit extension. They weren't able to have a representative here. But I figured that was still, they said that was okay if I presented it. There's no form associated with this, but they did provide a letter, which I have to pull up here real quick.
So the thing expires August
Mhm.
26th, so.
Yep, I did a site visit, I believe also on the 19th. And but that's not required either. But there we go. They're well within the time period. They're required 30 days in advance for the request. And I can read you all this letter that I forgot to print out. Let's see. It says, I am writing in advance. This is from Fontaine Brothers, who is the lead contractor. I'm writing in advance of the 8/26/2022 scheduled expiration of the order of conditions for the Mountain View School construction project at 200 Park Street in Easthampton in order to formally request an extension of the order of conditions. The phase 2 work of the project at the new athletic field and remaining site finishes is on schedule for substantial completion at the end of this summer. It is anticipated that final establishment of plantings and site finishes along with closeout documentation will continue into fall of 2022. We look forward to continuing to work with the Conservation Commission to bring this project to a successful close in the coming months. Please let me know if any additional documentation or information will be required in order to issue the requested extension of the order of conditions. Signed, Joel Kent, Senior Project Manager. And Michael was at the site visit. I'm trying to think if anything else to share. We drafted an extension. The only form associated with this is the extension itself. They are going to be doing this week some of the second to last paving to secure the site. And then I believe he was saying mid-August at some point, they're going to do the final paving. And so there should be no more extensive exposed soil coming soon.
So they requested a 3-year extension?
They didn't specify, but that is the typical request is for 3 years, though it doesn't sound like they'll necessarily need it. It seems like the safe option.
And are they up to date currently with all of their stormwater reporting?
Yes, yep.
And what is the status? I know we've had a number of discussions about that one detention for stormwater basin. What's the status?
The one in the back?
Yeah.
Yes, so, yeah, they're kind of,
functioning.
they're working everything from the front to the back. That'll be probably one of the last things that they do because it is in the rearmost area. They've not yet installed the under drain, but that was permitted, but they'll probably wait until the end, I think.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the commission? Comment from the site visit, Michael?
No, look good. They're coming along. Great.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to extend the order conditions for 3 years.
We have a second. Roll call vote. Sarah? Aye. Hal?
Aye.
Deb? Aye. Michael?
Aye.
Jay?
Aye.
Motion carries. Right. Sign this.
I could tell about it. Yeah, tell me about it. This place is the wax. Too much wax.
Oh, my God.
How old are they? How stale are they?
I did for you. I think he's online from 1960.
And Kathy, they'll need to,
Record it.
to record that, right? And you will update the expiration date on.
Yep.
on the next.
Okay.
There hasn't been any action on 105 Buzzard Street, Facilities, all that there.
Correct. There's not. I think that there may have been like some kind of potentially proposed change that they've not formally brought forward. I'm not sure.
Could be dead too, could be.
Right. Yeah. And no updates from 108 Oliver Street.
So actually, I did do a site visit today. And I talked to Mr. Strickland. Hello.
We got a quorum. Wait, they get a quorum.
Yeah.
See how the scramble goes. Sorry, folks.
We're still together.
Put in the office.
Do we want to do that before I give my update for Chickwin, or do you want to?
This shouldn't take long.
Okay, yeah, let me just do the one more project
Yep.
update. So this is for 108 Chickwin's, the Chickwin property, 108 Oliver Street. And, yeah, I did a site visit today and kind of just spoke with him about how, he's in a hard position because it's cost preventative for him to move forward with the current design. I told him, if you can explore other designs potentially, but at the very least, the commissioner is probably would require an amended order process, for that, but it's, thank you. It still kind of remains to be seen how they're gonna go forward. Yeah, I tried to talk to DEP about, what their potential options were. But DEP kind of confirmed that really the only thing it would be to, because we already issued the order, so it kind of locks in that what was determined to be an intermittent stream is kind of thinking like maybe it's not an intermittent stream, it's more just like a drainage something, but that can't really be changed until this order is out. Since the work is already started, they can't get a partial or a invalid order because the work is right up to the stream. So that he didn't seem to think that would be a possible option. Then the only other thing would be to wait 3 years for it to expire and then get a new one and make that argument then. So I need to update him with that information. I haven't been able to talk to him since I talked to DEP. So the other option would be to pursue the amended order, it sounds like to me. So I will communicate that to him again. And then I know Debbie had questions about the stormwater reporting. So during the site visit, the site's really stable because there's erosion controls all along the inlet and outlet of the stream area, and then the stockpile is almost entirely vegetated. It's very vegetated all over that stockpile.
The one in the back.
The one in the back, I confirmed, it stumps. There's no loose soil associated with it. And then it's still, so I don't think there's any concern of since we haven't been doing the reporting, I don't think seems unlikely that we've missed out on anything too crazy. But going forward, the site's pretty stable. So I'm not super concerned about it. But yeah, so I'll talk to him again about it. But we'll figure it out.
So the choice basically is either he's got to wait it out or
Can either
try to do the amendment.
wait for the permit to expire, and that kind of undoes the lock on the evaluation of the delineations, get a new one done and see if you can prove that stream isn't jurisdictional somehow, or that, I don't know what they could potentially do. It's kind of a long shot option. I don't think it fits the time scale.
That's a gamble
Yeah.
either way.
Yeah. And then the other option is to pursue it as it is and pay the expense for that crossing, or see if you can find a cheaper way to do it. And then if that changes the design significantly, come for an amended order. So it will be reviewed again if there's any changes.
This construction, I assume construction is at a standstill while they sort this out.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have a motion to return to, where are we? 6D,
6D, motion to return to 6D. Second.
roll call vote. Sarah?
Aye.
Hal?
Aye.
Deb?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Jay?
Aye.
Motion carries. 93 North Hampton Street, rear, map 150.113, enforcement order 2022-003.
Good evening. Dan Itchy from GZA, representing Frank Damaris. I sent in, it was late, I sent in just the restoration plan. Here's just a copy of this. The second paragraph is the more, or the third paragraph is more important. It has the different items in there. You are. There you go. Yours is the only copy. Yeah, I know. There's a map associated with it, but my printer at home didn't print color, so I couldn't give you a color image. Did you have, can they see it on a screen or something?
Okay, you weren't here at the beginning. There's something wrong with that.
No
Yeah, sorry.
So essentially what we talked about before is this fall, after the season's over, so October or so, he'll pull the bridge out, the temporary bridge that's there now. We'll also pull out the fill material on the east side. So that's the driving range side. We'll take that fill out up to the culvert, that 15-inch culvert that's in there. So the culvert comes out, the fill comes out, and we're basically going to lower it down until we hit the dark topsoil that's below that. No one ever removes the wetland soil. They just put dirt on top of it. So we pull back the fill. We find the mucky black material that's underneath it. We know we've hit the old bottom. I'm going to assume, like most projects, that all the seed stock is still in the soil. The seeded vegetation's all going to come up. The woody plants will probably not come up for a while, so we're going to plant 6 shrubs, 2 northern spice bush, that's a species that's dominant out there, and silky dogwood, that's also a dominant species within the adjacent wetland. And on the second, one of my items, I identified that the herbaceous species, like the skunk cabbage and the like, that are out there right now, that stuff, as soon as we get sun onto that, they're going to take off. So I think by next year, by the monitoring, we'll do twice a year in July. That's the peak biomass period. So we'll look in July, and I'm assuming that all that veg is going to be back, all that herbaceous material. And then we'll monitor as normal once per year for 2 growing seasons, send a report to you guys at the end of the season, basically identifying what's going on there. The additional item that we talked about at the last meeting was to seed the sort of the earthen or beat up, if you want to call it that, access road going up to the bridge and leaving the bridge. So we'll seed that with a conservation mix. On the east side, which is the agricultural field side, we'll put in a straw wattle at the interface of the field and the road so that nothing can leave the field and come down this sort of hard-packed road to the bridge. I don't think the grade does that naturally, but we'll just put something up anyhow. The other side is coming from a grassed field, and it's not going to go into the road. It just doesn't. It doesn't do that. The water goes into the woods. It doesn't follow the roadway. The other spot from the ag field side is a little bit more of a straight shot. So that's why we wanted to put something over there. So remove the bridge, pull the fill out, including the culvert, put the shrub plantings in there. There's 6 of them that'll go in. Mulch the area with a straw mulch. That'll sort of keep it stable. And then that'll allow the herbaceous plants to come up the following spring. They may try in the fall, but it's going to be late enough in the season where they probably would. Something was going to try to grow, because as soon as the sun hits them, they're like, I got to do something. I got to reproduce. So we're thinking something will pop up. But it's really next year you're actually going to get the real growth. And then we'll monitor that in July to make sure that everything's up and doing well. And that's will be like that until Frank has to design an actual crossing. He realizes string crossings, and he's got to put a fairly large size crossing in there because it's going to be a double lane road, the whole bit. And as I mentioned, I think at the previous meeting, when we proposed that crossing for the potential Stop and Shop that was looking to go in there, it ended up with about 450 square feet of BBW impact. Is probably the maximum that's going to happen in the future. And this area that I'm putting shrubs is probably the area that'll be impacted. We'll dig the shrubs up and I'll put them somewhere else where we build the replication area. I actually designed a replication area just out into the field, onto the grass side. And we never built it because obviously the project never went forward, but we have a spot already ready to go because this is the best place to cross that entire stream. It's the narrowest crossing. So that's our intention, to get that area so stabilized and get that crossing out of there. I did notice on I think the 2011 aerial, you can just start to see the bridging material there. The 2019 aerial, which is the image I used for the picture over black and white, shows the logs. It shows the telephone poles laying there, which is what Frank came upon. He took it out and put that bridge system that you saw in there. But I know unless you guys think otherwise, I don't recall seeing any bank impact or any impact to the stream itself from the crossing. It was just the BBW sort of leading into the crossing. But I think he placed that up high enough that it didn't actually affect the banks, from my recollection.
The other thing that I had in the notes, Dan, we had talked about also removing the pipe.
Yeah, that's part of the fill. Will be the 15-inch RCP. I just call it concrete pipe culvert. That will get pulled out as well.
So it's in here.
It says remove fill material or including concrete culvert.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. And did we also, and my notes are vague on this, did we also talk about some immediate stabilization measures to keep any of the sort of stone dust material from getting into the stream before the culvert or before the bridge comes out?
We didn't really talk about that, but we could certainly just have them put mulch right over top of it. Put like a straw mulch right on the surface.
Just some erosion protection.
Yeah.
That's the only other thing that, like I said, my notes are a little vague, but I think we had talked about potentially stabilizing that prior to people, since we are going to wait a few months.
Sure. Yeah, we can do that.
So why do you say to do the straw mulch for the erosion rather than the regular setup for the erosion?
There's no earthwork being done. So there's no earth disturbance. It's already there. And the surface is devoid of veg because people have been driving on it. But it's still a firm, hard surface. It's not eroding from what we could see. So by putting a mulch on top of this, it's like a pea stone. It's a very small, like 1/8 inch to almost 1/4 inch diameter sort of stone, but it has fines in it. So if we put a mulch on it, that stops rain from touching it. We stop rain from touching it, it can't mobilize. So that's what we'll do, is just lay it down. This is a slightly different type of a project. We're not constructing something, it's already there. Yeah. If we were gonna build it, then yeah, we would put barriers on the sides of the whole thing.
Well, it shouldn't have been there in the first place, right?
Yeah.
So, monitoring once annually for
just 2 growing seasons. That's the usual for restoration. You can do more if you want, but the usual for wetland restoration projects, it's usually 2 growing seasons following the completion. I'm going to assume he's going to complete it this fall. So next July 23rd, that would be the first monitor, and we'll go July 2024. Then I'll, a little report with photographs. What does it look like?
Put on our agenda, and we'll just keep track of it that way.
Okay.
Other questions? Do folks want a couple minutes to look this over?
I just had a question about replication area. So when you are going to do it, are you just estimating it's 450? Because you said it was 450.
That's what the impact was. I mean, the road width we saw there was about 10, maybe 11 feet wide, and it's about 14 feet long. So you're talking, that's about 150, 300 square feet at most right now. I think when it was originally designed, the way they were building it is they hit wetlands on both sides. So we'll see what that looks like. I think we'll just try to, I'm just letting the commission know it's going to be a small number, whatever it is, because that's like I said, that's the place to cross. That's the narrowest place.
But that's not relevant.
No, right.
No, it won't matter until we get to that, and until he actually puts forward an application.
Right.
So.
I don't know if this is the point to talk about. Dan, you asked about RDA for delineation?
Yeah, what method? ANRAD or RDA to confirm the boundaries?
For the entire property, looking forward to an application?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's a large site, right? What's the total size?
Yeah, I think it's 50 acres. We'll we've seen most of the wetlands other than the stream, I think, other than the crossing. I had that section flagged, but I continued the rest of the way down. We looked at the other isolated areas and that type of thing. And you have a peer reviewer, I understand, right, for that over the edge of the field by the Gall property?
Yes.
Is that?
Just that one corner,
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
yep.
Yeah,
I'm happy to take Cassie through the slog and mud.
because of the size, probably an AMAG would be more difficult, but I don't know that we have a strong preference.
Yeah. It's really,
Yeah.
it's a personal preference by commissioners. There's no
Yeah.
rule of thumb within DEP, like there's over this size
Right.
or under that size. It's what you're comfortable handling, sort of what it comes down to. So we'll go to Amber. I'll let them know. Okay, no problem.
Okay.
That's what we did last time for the Stop and Shop. We did.
Yeah.
Did we talk, Mark was there during the site visit, right? Cynthia?
He was.
But not on behalf of DEP.
Right.
He doesn't work for DEP anymore.
He's private.
He was there for the applicant.
On behalf of
Yes,
that.
correct, and
For the owner, I guess.
different capacity.
Anything further? Are folks comfortable with speaking to this? Do you need more time to look over?
I don't. As long as it's on the agenda, I think if you try to.
Okay. All right, yeah, so, this looks acceptable. I don't think we need a formal vote, but we could. Should we do a formal? vote?
It wouldn't hurt. I'd say motion to like approve this plan, restoration plan.
Make a motion to approve the restoration plan?
Dated
second.
July 25th, 2022.
Correct, I think.
I'll second.
Roll call vote, Sarah, Al, Deb, Michael,
Aye.
Jay,
Aye.
motion carries.
Thank you all for your time. Thank you for your patience.
So there's actually one other item. So this was for the peer review. Are they involved with the choice of the peer reviewer? Or I don't know what the process is. I apologize.
No, we would be
Okay.
responsible for this. Do you need these next back?
Yeah.
Very important notes.
That's how they order business for this item. So I don't know if you want to stay, but
Who did you select?
we, well,
Not
we
yet,
only,
we
yeah,
have, applications in front of us.
we only got 3
Are they all here
proposals.
together, Kathy?
Yeah, it should be. Let me double check. It should be LEC, ESC Group, and Stockman
And
Associates. Yeah.
Okay. And these were, I assume, all received by the deadline.
Correct.
I think this is the first we're seeing this, right? I didn't see them circulate.
I emailed them originally, but if you weren't able to look at it beforehand.
No, I didn't see this.
That's-
Others,
I didn't see it.
others had a chance to look at it?
No,
I haven't.
Oh, sorry.
I didn't see it.
I didn't even separately. It was like all wrapped up in the, it might even have been in the ongoing updates section.
Okay.
Yeah, yep, I put them in the ongoing update thing. I linked in there. Sorry about that. I should be more clear.
So what were the 3? Is it Stockman, LC?
It's
LEC.
Stockman Associates, LEC Environmental, and BSC Group.
They give us.
Yes.
Yep, they're all included.
3%. Levels. A3 for. You guys are all,
So variant three, yes.
I generated the list from MECC, has a list of consultants and shows which groups do delineate, which ones do what. I called all the ones in the list and then emailed it to six groups, said they were willing to even receive the RFP. Everyone's really busy right now. So then I only got 3 responses.
The prices vary widely, so BSC, where did it go? Their total quote is $8,350. LEC's so they vary widely.
Who's gonna give Dan the hardest time? That's,
LEC is 4,500 and Stockman Associates is 3,300.
They're looking at 3,000 square feet. BSC group is unbelievable. Sorry, that. Oh, gosh.
You're allowed to say whatever you
say
want.
what you want to say.
As a member of the
No, I
public.
don't mean to slander them, but every time I go to somewhere, it's twice what everybody else is. It's unbelievable.
So I want to confirm that Emily Stockman's proposal includes everything we asked for. Have you already done that?
And I haven't taken it that close of a look, but I can confirm. I spoke with her about it on the phone, so I'd be surprised if it was missing, but it'd be good to check. Let's see here.
So site visit, it says based on the attached 2005 plan, the boundary of wetland number 6 and impacts along the associated agricultural field edge will be reviewed in the field. It is anticipated that boundary delineation flagging will be clearly visible and labeled in the field. I assume that's accurate.
So,
Your flags are out there.
Yeah.
Any observation plots utilized by the property representative to evaluate soils, vegetation, and hydrology, it should also be clearly marked on a site plan and field for review. It is anticipated that the Conservation Commission will provide Stockman Associates with an updated site plan of the delineation currently being performed by the property representative. Moreover, it is anticipated the property representative responsible for the delineation will be present during the site visit. Work for you?
Yep.
Materials review. So we'd asked her to review the public meeting video from June 27th, to review the expired 2005 ORAD plan set, as well as the unapproved wetland delineation plan, and the updated wetlands delineation. Reporting review findings, including a review comment letter and recommendations based on the materials review and site visit. The report will specifically address concurrence and non-concurrence with resource area boundaries as presented on the updated wetland delineation plan. We'll also specify any observed potential violations along the agricultural field edge and provide recommended actions by conclusion. And subsequent review of revised materials provided by the project representative in response to the initial peer review comment letter, and preparation of a review comment letter and recommendations based on the materials review, specifically addressing whether the initial peer review comments have been satisfied, and then attendance at one meeting on number 4, September 12th. So I believe that covers everything we had asked for. I'll pass these around, but my inclination would be to accept that one.
Oh, and don't she reference an attached plan? She did attach the plan. I just, for whatever reason, couldn't get into print on Adobe. Was having me a problem with it. So it's just the plan that I had originally shared with them. So it's what you would expect.
So when they say they'll attend one meeting, is that remote or in person?
Either.
Does it?
Yeah.
I believe it specifies in there that she's assuming remote for the Conservation Commission meeting.
I think we would accept either since we have that capability.
Right.
So, yeah.
This one's also assuming remote. We may have even said that in the, I can't remember.
I don't know. I have it here. I don't think I specified. But I did, when I spoke to all these people, I kind of gave an idea that we have been doing these hybrid meetings, so it may just be easiest for them.
I never checked the spelling. That's how we choose.
I would expect Emily Stockman's spelling to be fairly similar.
I assume so also.
Actually, that doesn't.
Oh. Yeah, well, but we'll look at the other ones.
Drive.
Thank you. Once we make our selection, Kathy, I believe the next step is that we need the owner to provide full payment before we can issue our contract to the selected peer reviewer, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Because it will be paid for. Those funds will be put in a separate 53G account, and then we'll take funds from that account to pay the applicant. Or excuse me, to pay the peer reviewer. Okay, cool.
Like that one?
Can I have the original?
This is a Stockton Associates.
I passed everything for
Sorry.
being here to. I will note also that ESC's is a not to exceed cost, whereas the other ones are not. Stockman Associates assumes 30 hours and a rate of 110 per hour. I know that LEC was also not to exceed, but I'm assuming given the differential in cost that your project or your property owner would prefer the less expensive, even if there's some additional hours.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
thank
think
you.
it would take a lot of hours to make a difference.
30 hours sounds like a lot. That's just for that location, just for the Gall interface section?
Because I think maybe because of the analysis of the farm, like how has it changed over time?
Sure.
Maybe that is
Okay.
why, I'm not
Maybe
sure.
that's part of it.
Yeah, and
But she's not checking the whole property.
No.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Correct.
All right.
Yep, it's assuming one field day and then meetings and reporting, and there were a number of materials we'd asked them to review as part of it. So
Okay.
I think that's
What's that
probably
number for principal?
3,300.
That's it. Pass it to Frank. Thank you. Is that who you're selecting or?
Any opinions?
I have no concern with that company.
Even as well, say some project or if we have a closest one.
And it seems like the differences in the
Yes.
proposals are all an hourly rate more than anything else.
Yes, it's in Boston, but I think Boston is. So they're on
That is probably why they're hourly rates.
Even seeing your hourly. Oh, 160.
175.
Say again? Yeah, so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so if there are no further comments or questions,
I'll make a motion that we select Stockman Associates as the vendor.
Second.
roll call vote. Sarah? Aye. Al?
Aye.
Deb? Michael?
Aye.
Jay?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, so Dan, if you want to pass on
Yep.
that information,
And to send a check made out to the city?
to the city.
Okay.
Yeah,
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 I'll have them send it to you.
yeah, yep. And I don't know if they need to sign somewhere on that. If it would be maybe at,
it would be us who needs to sign.
okay, so.
Yeah, she will be working for
We're
us.
hiring.
Yes, gotcha. Okay, cool. Makes sense.
And I think Kathy, it should actually, how do we usually do this? Do we sign? Or does someone from the city sign?
Might be someone from the city that
It
has to
says
sign it.
Easthampton Conservation Commission on here.
It does.
Well, so what it was resolved for, I don't know if this is a good example, but for land stewardship, that management plan,
Yeah.
that was same similar thing, we want the city to sign, and I spoke with Jeff about it, he's like, I should sign it, so I signed it,
Okay.
because I'm the person, so if you want me to sign it, I'm happy to do that, or if y'all want to, it could go either way.
Yeah, I think we should have you sign it,
Okay,
as an actual employee of the city.
okay,
And then you can also wait until you have the check in hand.
excellent, okay.
Yeah, don't sign it until you get the check.
Okay. Okay.
All right,
All
so
set?
we're set there.
Thank you,
all
Dan.
for your time.
Yeah, have a nice day.
Kathy, if you could also though reach out to Emily and let her know that she's a selection, we're just waiting on. the check,
Yes, yeah,
So that
absolutely.
she knows to put that in.
Put it in the queue somewhere.
Yeah. Do that, great. All right, so let's do. Any other compliance updates?
Need to double check, I think not. Yeah, that was it.
Excellent. General business meeting minutes from July 11th, 2022.
Motion to approve the minutes from
Anyone wants to see
July 11th.
anything?
We have a second. Roll call vote. All those in favor, Sarah? Aye. Al?
Aye.
Deb? Michael? Okay.
Aye.
Motion carries. We've already dealt with 5 Mineral Street, conservation restriction review, Kathy?
Yep, I know. No, that was on here last time, but it's here again for a reason. So, I appreciate the commission reviewing it and signing it last time, but there have been additions made. And there's only 2 or 3, I should say. So one is a, permitted use was added for the potential for a driveway in the future. Or excuse me, not a driveway, a parking area.
Okay.
In the future, just, we don't have plans to install one. There is currently 2 parking spaces there. But if the city ever wanted to more formally put one in there, it was recommended that we have that language in there. So I will mark this page for you all if you want to see it. It's item 60 on that page. And then the second thing, there's a recommendation by Kestrel to include this. Both are, excuse me, but this is something that Kestrel does, particularly in all of their CRs that they are involved with. It basically says third-party impairment. And it just means that if a third party encroaches on the property or does some kind of violation there, we can go to that third party. It won't be on necessarily just the city to resolve it, but the third party would like be involved. And you can read the exact language there. And then the last thing is the plan depicting where the area is. It was updated to make it more clear in the black and white format. And I folded it here on the back, just so it's a little more clear what those changes are. So not anything, in my opinion, that's major. And it's been approved by the state with those changes.
Do we need to re-sign?
I would say yes. Yeah. Yeah, with the new date and everything.
We have this,
Yeah, so it was linked to in the ongoing project update document. That's like a hyperlink for that item. Yeah.
So what was the middle change?
The third party impairment.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first one was the allowance for a parking area potentially in the
Yeah.
future, though there's no plans at this stage for any. The second one was this third-party impairment. So I would encourage you to read the language. Just read it if it's confusing, because it is a little confusing. But basically, my understanding is that it's so that, you know, as it stands, technically, like the city is the property owner. So if there's a violation, then it's on us to, you know, have, you know, do whatever restoration or remediation is required for that. This kind of gives that also that option to, like, to pursue the third party person who potentially committed the violation. It's come up before, I guess, for Kestrel, and it's a good thing to have in there, in their opinion.
So you're talking conservation or civil?
It's the same essentially in this instance, yeah. So
We're supposed to be saying?
if you, well, you guys didn't vote. If you want, I think you should vote to accept it and approve it, and then I would, if everyone can sign it, that would be best.
Didn't we discuss that before we signed it originally? Like if something happened on property, there was a violation.
Yeah, that it was our responsibility, and it still will be the city's responsibility, but it's like now we can also bring in if it is a third party doing it. Like if the city goes in there and builds a house or an office building, it would be like, we're in trouble because we're not supposed to do that, and you know, that's what it is. But if another person comes in and, like, say in a butter starts like mowing their lawn into that area, or which would be a more realistic thing that could happen, or if someone starts building something out there, like a shack or something, I don't even know, then we could be like, this person is in trouble as well. Let me.
Does the CR allow hunting?
This one does not.
We talked about that before.
I think it does
that's what
not,
we're
yeah.
talking about, because there was a big discussion about it.
Okay, do you want me to read this real quick? It just says, in the event that a third party violates the conservation restriction or otherwise impairs the conservation values on the premises, both the grantor and the grantee, which would be the city and Kestrel Land Trust, shall have the right, either jointly or singly, to compel restoration and or seek damages from the third party responsible for the violation or impairment. If the grantee acts unilaterally, it shall not proceed against the grantor or any third party impairment or violation, as long as, one, the grantor has not and does not affirmatively encourage such third-party violation or impairment, and two, the grantor has taken and continues to take reasonable steps to prevent such violation or impairment. Such steps include, but aren't limited to, posting signage to inform potential violators that the property has come under a new ownership, and that new rules apply to public use of the premises, including prohibition to the use of all-terrain vehicles, and that anyone violating such rules will be committing trespass. So as long as the city, as the owner, is taking reasonable steps to prevent a violation from a third party, then the grantor or grantee will like work with us essentially.
And whose job is it to protect this thing?
It'd be the city's, yeah.
Ours? Like, no.
Yeah, I mean, like physically, it would probably be DPW, but I think under the management of the Conservation Commission, I believe, is my understanding, in a technical sense.
We need to confirm that.
You don't, not for this, not to sign this, I would say. The property is already owned by the city. So,
I mean, do we need to like put in a work order?
maybe, yeah, that's a good question.
Not
No, I know, put sign that and stuff, yeah. Yeah, I think that there's like a bigger thing of just general management, just of all the properties that could be like figured out, but I'll talk to Jeff about putting up signage. There's already is like a sign marking the property as Reservation Road. Part of the grant requirement was to erect a sign that shows where the parking is and shows that it is a conservation, has a CR on it, all that good stuff. So there's at least one sign saying that, but all the property bounds, I don't believe that's the case right now.
Did we clarify that it's okay to sign this over notary?
Yes, yeah, so I figured it out with the clerk, so it's good, yeah.
Do we have a motion to reapprove or the changes? This is
Motion to approve the conservation restriction as revised.
Second.
Roll call vote. All those in favor? Sarah?
Aye.
Hal?
Aye.
Deb?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Jay?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, sorry to have to do that again and make the changes. Okay.
All right, while that is going around, our last order of business is the wetlands ordinance discussion. Do folks have a chance to review the MAC model ordinance?
And the old drafts.
The old draft?
Not really. No, I couldn't open it at work.
Oh, you couldn't open it?
The old drafts. I remember seeing old emails and their appeals.
So
The old drafts were circulated between the last meeting and this one. Jay was able to find the electronic versions, so those are in your inbox.
But I did look at the other email.
oh, cool.
Yeah,
Yep. So I started.
Jumped out from what you looked at. Directed at you, Sarah. I think you're the only one who did.
Oh, and Deb did too.
Oh, and Deb, sorry.
Well, most of, you know, I looked at Northampton and North and they all spoke to, or most of them spoke to regional wetland, isolated wetland, vernal, temporary pools, freshwater wetlands, intermittent streams. I think Belchertown was the only one that talked about the intermittent streams of gradient of wetland forest areas. There was one sentence in Amherst that I liked that just kind of listed all these things and then said, shall be protected whether or not the resource area borders surface waters. I thought that was a nice catch-all phrase. In Northampton, there was this language they kept talking about, unless the presumption of like a vernal pool is rebutted under whatever 330, you know, this chapter of that 337 chapter 10. I wasn't sure what that meant, this rebuttal process, but I was curious about that. But it seems like the 3 towns I looked at, they all are looking at protecting the same areas that we talked about protecting during our last meeting.
Yeah, so just to speak to that, one of the things that I said I was going to do, and I partially did, was try to find specific examples about those things that we were cited as things we wanted to have in our ordinance. Just to kind of like recap, those things were, hold on here. Oh, the things were, increased protections to isolated vegetated wetlands, non-certified vernal pools, and wetlands that lack hydraulic connections to other water bodies, which I agree. And I saw in Amherst, I was able to specifically for that item find a number of examples. Amherst has the most extensive one, in my opinion. From their, yeah, yep. They also have a note in there about like the size of the isolated area. I think that needs to be, gosh, where does it say? 5,000 square feet or something like that. Because that was a question last time. I was like, what size of isolated area becomes jurisdictional? Maybe that was Belchertown.
I think Northampton, like as low as 30s, where he in one of their.
Northampton did?
Yeah.
Well, our draft went down to something quite low.
But they also specify 2 months of continuous water. And if it's less than that, there's like a presumption that there's no species that are being, no eggs in there. Species that are being protected. You know, if it's just a depression that happens to have water in it, less than 2 months. It's like between 30 and 400 square feet, they said they have, that was like there was 2 exceptions.
Yeah, the 30 and 400 were what we had in our draft as well.
Okay. Okay. Oh, yeah, I see here. So they have, Northampton has like an exception. They said the commission may exempt the 100-foot buffer area around the seasonal or isolated wetlands and or the seasonal or isolated vegetative resource area itself if the area of the wetland is less than 400 square feet and it does not appear likely that the area is a vernal pool, vernal pond, or otherwise critical to the wetland values protected by this chapter. Seasonal wetlands and isolated wetlands, which are less than 30 square feet, are not within the jurisdiction of this chapter unless they contain a certified vernal pool as defined in the Wetlands Protection Act. Yeah, so that it's nice to be clear like that. I'd like to have specifics if we can. So.
And then Northampton also, I think we talked about not wanting to get into worrying about like drainage ditches or something. Northampton had a sentence about accepting artificially built detention areas and drainage areas.
Okay.
So that seemed like it would be the thing to make sure that ours. I am curious, since I didn't look at ours and I missed that. The overzealous that people complained about that it was working for, if now, like 20 years later, and climate change and all these other towns now have these businesses. People have this new option.
That's not what was circulated. This is a new draft. Not what
Oh, this is the 2011.
Right.
Okay. Right. But I'm still curious about that. People really so overzealous.
Those sentiments may have changed.
Yeah, sentiments have changed.
I don't know, it's before
Before
my time on the commission, yeah.
Does your previous comment to include or exclude basement or retention man-made?
It is to exclude.
Excellent.
That's what we talked about last time.
So I looked at the language that they all had, and Eldertown spoke about ephemeral pools where the other towns didn't.
Yeah.
So that, I didn't know if it wanted to include something like that. Then South Hadley in their regs, they name most of the area streams. They actually put the names down. I don't know if that's, if we need to specify right down at that, but I thought that was pretty interesting.
That, just to speak a little to that, because that's a really good point. I forgot about that. And it was interesting. So they have like a map of all the streams, which I don't know what our capacity is to generate something similar, but that basically said anything that's in this map is jurisdictional, we've determined.
And it named them all, you know.
Yeah.
But also that does not imply that something not on the map is not jurisdictional.
Right.
It's just a guide that if it is on this map, we're telling you it is jurisdictional.
Yeah.
So they're not
You
bad.
still have to evaluate everything you come across.
Right.
And then Northampton has something called a conservation zone. I don't know if that's the same as the setback.
Or the no disturb.
Or disturb.
Potentially, I'm not sure.
They call it a conservation zone, and they have also for vernal pools based on the size of the basin with a 25-foot setback of undisturbed vegetation. And then it goes into all the different, the fish populations, the habitat functions. I just like the different languages, and I was hoping we could maybe go from there. Like ephemeral pools, I never even heard of that, but it's all through Belchertown regs and bylaws.
Yeah, so that would be the same as a seasonal pool.
Okay.
So it's in our draft under that language.
Okay.
We talked about seasonal wetlands or vernal pools. That's really what an ephemeral pool is.
Okay.
And I think Belchertown also had, they didn't call it a no disturbance zone, but they did have a 25-foot. Okay, that was the same language. I also liked that it all added to the values that were being protected. They all added agriculture, recreation, Northampton added aesthetic, several of them added erosion and sediment control and aquaculture.
Also in the altar, I think they added in more than we might have had. I was just trying to look to see the different towns and.
Which town?
And the definition of alteration.
Yes, because they break out, this was a Belchertown bylaw under altar. They add in destruction of plant life, the cutting of trees, that's in the other ones also. Changing water temperature, biochemical oxygen. Yeah, it just seemed that removal, excavation, or dredging of soils, sand, clay, gravel, minerals, aggregate materials of any kind, it just seemed they had more detailed. I don't know if we want more detail, because I don't know if that's more of a problem. Or, but it just, each one had a different, again, I don't know if that's also based on their city and the name of the land. But they also had isolated depressions. They defined the ephemeral pools, which you're saying we have, which is good. The other thing is, though, they really specified more of wildlife habitat that we can put in a bylaw, something more, that we can say something, and I think that's very important because we haven't been able to really do anything like that. So, see if I can find that. Yeah, Northampton specifies all the vernal pools, all the different sizes within non-residential area, business parks, highway business, they break it all down. So I don't want to, so wildlife habitat under Belchertown. They have resource areas that provide breeding and nesting habitat, shelter, food, and water to all plant and animal species, dependent on wetlands for any portion of their life cycles. Includes resource areas identified as containing rare, threatened, or endangered species as listed in Massachusetts Natural Heritage Program. Structures and activities in or within 100 feet of any resource shall not have a significant effect on wildlife habitat. I don't know if we had that in previously in ours.
Isn't wildlife habitat under the act?
It is, yes. That's one of the interests of the act. So maybe, it sounds like there's a lot of language in that one that just further clarifies some of the things that apply, which, you know, like the definitions of alteration, we can always argue that something constitutes an alteration without having the specifics spelled out, but I think that's helpful for people to understand some of the examples, and those lists can always say including but not limited to make clear that anything that's an alteration and in fact because of the act would be considered a violent or required a permit. All right, so
it sounds like we need more specific language.
I think in some instances, it can provide some clarification that's helpful for people. I don't think that I think there were expanded definitions. No, there were a few in. Yeah, so there was a definition of alteration that's spelled out in the model bylaw as well that had a number of things listed. Actually, it sounds like this may be the same language that you were reading, or a lot of it is the same, so that may be where they borrowed that from. So I think what I would like to do for next time is if everyone could read the model ordinance that I believe Kathy you sent around. The
MACC
right?
model? Yeah, I can send it again.
If you could read that and then see if there's anything, I mean, this is meant to apply broadly, so there's things that we need to scratch out, like dunes and estuaries and oceans and coastal wetlands and all of that.
Right.
I did like a marked up version that I can send y'all where it took this stuff that's obviously not us out.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, circulate that if you would, please. And then let's go from there to say what we want to add in. That's anything you've been noticing in other ones that we like that isn't in here. Keeping in mind that we'd already discussed doing a bylaw and regulations, with the regulations having a lot more detail. So we want to keep the bylaw to the sort of core information. But anything that you think is missing here, go ahead and catalog, and then we can decide if it belongs to the regulations of the bylaw. But does that sound like an okay
Yes.
next step?
Who has to approve it? City council would have to approve this, or?
The bylaw,
Yeah.
yes, would be voted on by city council. The regulations, the idea behind regulations and why they are a useful method of having the details spelled out is that they could be, the bylaw gives our board the right to promulgate regulations.
Right.
And then we can make changes to that without needing to have official city council votes, or in other communities, it's town meeting, which can only happen once a year, and there's this whole drawn out process. So that's the benefit there.
Okay.
Do we need any legal approval?
Everything that,
Gets looked at.
yeah, everything gets looked at both by city council, but I think all ordinances also have to be approved at the state, right? Isn't that what you're telling us, the state attorney general? Is that where the solar ordinance is hung up at the moment?
Well, it's waiting on, that was waiting on a legal case to be decided that wasn't with our town, but it could impact ours. So it's waiting that, I do believe that it will need to be reviewed by them. Also, their town solicitor or city solicitor I would assume, look at it before we send it off to city council. Whatever like most final version that y'all create would then be looked at by the city solicitor and then be distributed for everyone else to vote on and take a look at, make sure it's all legal.
All right. Any other thoughts tonight?
I just want to say I won't be here next time.
I also will not be next time.
What?
So we need 4, right, Cassie, or
Correct.
5?
We have 7, so we need, yeah.
We need 4 of them.
We need 4.
Does everyone else anticipate being here?
I expect to be here.
I could call and like
That would help us
August?
more.
The 8th.
I think
Wait,
you
excuse
can
me.
now call in and be part of forum.
Oh, you can.
Yes, you can call, well, so,
At the city level?
I don't know.
This has been a city rule.
Yeah.
I believe
Yeah, I don't know if
it's
it can
changed.
constitute a
Okay.
quorum. Okay,
Let's
I'll
have
double
you-
check.
Let's have you double check that, but I believe it's changed because at one of the CPA meetings, someone called in and they said, no, that rule's changed. We have forum now. We have a person that called in. We're good.
Okay.
Let's see what's legal.
Okay.
And Dan?
Yeah.
Jay, are you able to chair next?
Yes, I can do that.
Great.
Just don't put anything on the agenda.
You gotta talk to Kathy about it.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, and so I guess as far as this discussion goes, feel free to either carry on or table it. if you want.
Sure.
Table it.
We'll take more problems
So
this
as
week.
far as violations.
Yeah.
They, all the different cities and all sort of like 300 dollars.
That seems sense to be the common.
But it didn't say whether it was per violation, it said 300, so I don't know what that.
Typically, it's 300 per violation per day is the way, or whatever the amount is, it's per violation per day.
I'll keep trying to isolate by each like type of addition, the examples from different towns. So I didn't get very far on that, unfortunately, for this meeting, but I'll keep going with that and compile enforcement stuff too. So you can see what the common denominators are and stuff like that.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call vote. Sarah?
Aye.
Hal? Deb?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Jay?
Aye.
Motion carried. It is 8:10 and I am adjourning this meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission. The next meeting is August 8th at 6 p.m.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.